opinions expressed in this show belong to the person expressing them. They do not purport to reflect the opinions or views of Rancher or any other entity.
Good morning, everybody. Oh, wow, that's really bright back there. Hang on a second. Yeah, that's much better. Sorry. I opened it up because I got screens on my windows yesterday because there's all this exterior construction going on, and I thought it would be nice. But instead, it was just really bright. So, anyway, hi. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to today's episode of Coffee and Cloud Native, the show that shares news and interesting content related to Kubernetes, Cloud Native, and other nifty technology. My name is Adrian Goins, and I am delighted to be here with you today. If you're watching live, consider following or subscribing to the channel. And if you're watching a replay, well, please give the video a thumbs up so the YouTube algorithm shares it with other people. Join the free community site and the Discord server. Links to that are in the video description or scrolling across the bottom of the screen. Now, live chat happens in Discord with a bot that relays between YouTube and Twitch, so come hang out with us, either during the show or after. And as you'll see in a minute, Discord's where the real action happens. So let's say hello to the people who are joining us live today. First of all, a moment of silence for Nuno, who cannot join us because he is in a meeting. Okay, that's enough. Now, on to everyone else. Good morning, Ian, Duck, Wifebot, Shipwreck. Hey, Shipwreck. And he says, Shipwreck says he doesn't get that much sun in his entire apartment. Our house is really bright. Like, I look back on my life and I can see this progression from like 1997 when I actually lined the walls of the room that I was renting in a house with black trash bags and a black light, and I was being shadow in there, and now I'm like, and everything's really bright and stuff like that. I love the sun in the morning. Anyway, that was a little bit dramatic. Good morning, Peter Keach. I don't know if I already said hello to you. Samuel Dan leveled up today and now gets to post GIFs. Yay! Oh, Frank. Dun, dun, dun. Wojtek, hello. And a lot of chat going on this morning between Ian, Peter, Ian, Frank, Peter, Ian, Peter, Wojtek. So, hello, everybody. And those of you who are above the line where I stopped scrolling or who are watching on YouTube or Twitch, hello, thank you for joining us. So let's get started for today. So continuous inspiration is when we look inward and share stuff from the CNCN community, either new members who created a bio for themselves or old members who've created a bio for themselves, because everybody's been creating bios recently, or content created by community members. So our featured member today, drumroll, is Justin Tamblin, aka Captain Justin. Captain Justin has a wonderful hat. Although I have not actually seen Old Man with a Hat's hat. His hat might be wonderfuler. Wonderfuler, word for the day. Justin is not a captain, but goes by Captain Justin. I don't know if that's like a Docker captain reference or he just really likes having the hat. He currently serves as an architect at First Rand Bank in Joburg, South Africa. And you can find him in Discord as Captain Justin. So everybody please say hello to Captain Justin. And I don't know, part of like the continuous inspiration community stuff day, I think everybody should just go and like harass the presented member and be like, hey, what are you doing? Hey, what are you doing? Hey, what do you do? Hey, why do you wear a hat? And then people will hate on me. So yeah, Old Man with a Hat says nice hat. It is a nice hat, isn't it? I can't really get a bigger picture of it, can I? Oh my gosh, I can get an enormous picture of it. Look at that hat. Very fancy. All right, so Justin Tamblin. Thanks, mate. And now, on to the good stuff. Well, not to imply that the other stuff isn't good, but on to the meat and potatoes. So, the collector bots have gathered candidates for the show, and Trufflebot has scored them from 1 to 5 coffees, corresponding to a 75 to 100% probability of being interesting content. He posts them one at a time in the A/B test channel on Discord, and I load them up. Anyone watching live can rate them in Discord, and then the final scores are shown when we move to the next item. And all of you who are watching on YouTube and Twitch, during my 2 week holiday, I will figure out a way to get links out to you as well, or something so that you can also participate. Maybe stretch goal, we might even get some voting in there for you. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna sneeze. Okay, I'm not gonna sneeze. It's allergy dust stuff. Anyway, final scores are shown when we move to the next item, and then the total rating for all items will eventually, once we have enough collected, be used to retrain the machine learning model. First up today, what do we have? More drum rolls. First up today, we have an IoT thing that is interesting. Now, this post actually came up. This is from Apilio, and it talks about how they've updated their platform to support Tuya Smart Life. I wouldn't normally post something about a vendor, except that Tuya Smart Life is pervasive. Pervasive. We're going to make up words all day long. Welcome to Coffee and Cloud Native, where we don't speak any language that anybody recognizes. Pervasive. Everywhere. In fact, used it as a criteria when I bought a wall mount panel heater for the bathroom, which is over there. And it was like Wi-Fi enabled. And I absolutely hate that everybody has a smart device and everybody has their own app. So you've got like 60 devices and 48 apps, and you got to remember which app. It's just stupid. And solutions like Home Assistant are designed to solve that. Or in the case of the Tuya devices, there's actually an alternative firmware. You can like poke at it and get it to send its stuff to MQTT instead. But Apilio caught my eye because what about people who want something but don't have a home lab? Let me actually just go to apilio.com. Well, if you don't have a home lab, this is kind of like Home Assistant as a service. And it basically augments if functionality and enables things like, instead of just if this then that, it's like if this, 30 minutes later do that, or this and this, or this and this, and then that. And they work based on they have 3 terms. They have logic blocks, conditions, and something else. Basically, the state of a thing, something that checks the state of a thing, and then some action that happens. And they support lots of different stuff, including Tuya devices, which, what was the word of the day? Pervasant. So there you go. If you don't have a home lab, in fact, I even think they have, they've got a really nice, this was the one. I was talking to WifeBot yesterday. About something, and I was like, and it's super cheap. And then I went and looked at it, and I was like, it wasn't super cheap. I'm remembering something else. It's this. Like, you look at this pricing tier, and it's like, oh, so it's $35 a year. Like, that's great. Like, my Home Assistant infrastructure probably costs me more than $35 a year. Now, it's still a cloud service, and if the internet's down, it doesn't work and all that other stuff. But, if it's this, or like 60 apps on your phone, I'm going to go with this. Next up. No. Continuous delivery and automation pipelines in machine learning with polyaxon and kubeflow pipelines. It's quite a mouthful. Continuous delivery. What this article is actually about, and the reason I'm putting it on the show, is it's about using CD methodology, CD being continuous delivery, for consistent training of machine learning models. You heard me say at the beginning of the show that eventually, when I have enough ratings of content, I'll use it to retrain the model. And for the model that runs this show, not runs it, but that curates content for this show, is a natural language processing model. NLP is really difficult because it's 100% biased at the moment because I'm training it on things that I like, which is why I'm excited that I'll be able to get the community's ratings back in there because you all like things on a different scale than what I like, and that's important. However, NLP is difficult. So think about something that's easier like image processing or image classification or something like that. If you can have a constant influx of data, then why not just train your model all the time? This article is about doing that very thing, and apparently the whole thing is called CD4ML because, who doesn't love an acronym? And it presents a methodology that uses polyaxon and kubeflow. There you go. Now we're back to the title to retrain and then canary test the output with an ultimate goal of, let's see, so they're continuously trained, looking at my highlighting. So it goes through various stages here. So it fetches the data from a BigQuery and then stuffs it off into Google Cloud Storage. I mean, they're talking about their environment. Obviously, your environment would be different. And then there's something else that triggers, hey, go train the model. And then they do an offline evaluation. They use Kaneko. Yeah. Clap on the screen. Yeah. And to actually build stuff. And then they push it out into the container registry. Now, once that's done, they run it through a canary pipeline using Spinnaker and Istio. And then they so the canary is just like, okay, it doesn't totally break things. That's good. But their future plans actually include A/B testing. Because when you train a new model, you don't 100% know that the new model is better than the old model. You need to actually test it. And much of what I do is like I'll run it through some training material for the show, and it comes out worse because it's NLP and it's difficult. So they'll do A/B testing, and then whichever model is more successful according to actual real utilization is the one that they'll make live. And then they'll just continue to iterate through this process, refining it. Very cool article about using cool open source technology. And then it actually led me to, who the heck is Mercari? Who the heck is Mercari? Any of you heard of this? Mercari is a pace is a Mercari is basically an app for selling stuff. They have a whole, like, you make an app. Sorry, you make a listing. You have a you. Oh man, where's my coffee? You install the app, you make a listing, you sell stuff. They take 10%. Listings are free. They print out shipping labels and they do all of this other stuff. So it's like eBay, but in app form. eBay is, ooh, I don't like eBay anymore. eBay used to be like the real deal, and now it's like you're basically 100% guaranteed to get ripped off. Not by eBay, but by the people who are not selling fake things. They're trying to fix that, so they're an app for selling stuff. When I get back to the United States, dude, living in Chile, rant. Living in Chile, people here, like, we have this thing called Mercado Libre that's like eBay, and it just totally doesn't work. It kind of works if you're buying from a store, but when you're trying to do direct transactions with people, it just doesn't work because people don't want to pay the price that you want to sell it for. It doesn't matter what it is. You can have an item, you list it for $10, and they'll be like, I'll give you 5. How about I'll give you $3? Like, no, the price is 10. I'll give you $2 then. Like, so I have all of this stuff, mostly technology and electronics that I don't use anymore, that I'm literally going to take with me back to the United States so that I can sell it there. Anyway, I was excited when I saw this because I was not excited about the prospect of doing all of that on eBay. So Mercari, super cool. And they use machine learning. Why not support that? Next. Whoops. Next. Next. I'm going to keep saying that. Next is an article about why Linkerd doesn't use Envoy. Linkerd has an ongoing claim that they are stupidly fast. Benchmarks show them just way faster than any other service mesh that's out there. And they claim that this is because they use a microproxy instead of using Envoy, which Envoy's fine, and they do a really good job in this article of saying that Envoy's totally fine. And lots of, here's why people use Envoy, but we didn't. And here's why we didn't, and here's what we use, and here's why it's fast, and here's a whole bunch of other stuff. They specifically designed their Linkerd2 proxy to be basically transparent. It's small, it's fast, it's written in Rust, it's secure, it's designed to do just one thing, whereas Envoy is actually designed to do lots of things. And by specializing it, they've kind of made it just disappear into the background. You don't really know that it's there. So this article brings it out to the foreground and says, hey, check this thing out. Here's what it is. Here's why it's great. And they talk a lot about that. Specialization in an application allows the application to be small and focused and to do one thing really, really well. And I think that's fantastic, but it does run the risk of, I mean, people are attracted to the bright and shiny and the hey, grab your attention, grab your attention. And a lot of the other service meshes do that. And in fact, they talk about how they really want it to be boring, but then they also talk about this. Okay, I'm not going to find it quickly. Um, Basically, that a lot of the technology that is deployed in our universe. There it is, right there. So the full answer to this question is nuanced and technical at heart, exactly the kind of content that tends to get swept away in the faddish, blog post driven world of cloud native adoption. How many of us are guilty of maybe watching a YouTube show about new and interesting technology and then going and playing with it on the weekend? Mm. Nobody that I know, certainly nobody that's watching this show. And it's important that when we are looking at new technology that we recognize that it's a veritable smorgasbord of cake and cupcakes and cookies and things that may not do as good for us as like a salad or a steak or something like that. And they want to talk about what they've got going on there. So Linkert's always been on my radar as just kind of being off to the side, but just doing what they do really well and being like, we're just over here doing our thing. Now, I don't know if it will make it on the show today because I'm being very chatty, but in the links that will come out later, there's another article that the bots also picked up yesterday, totally random, about benchmarking. Somebody actually did their thesis for a computer science degree on benchmarking Istio versus Linkerd. So that's pretty cool. Great article. Linkerd, why do they do what they do? Hooray. I know some people from Linkerd watch the show, so it's nice to have content on the show about them. I warned you yesterday that some of the stuff that's going to be coming up this week is just going to be fun because it's the last week before I get to take vacation. And oh my gosh, there are robot cars in San Francisco. There are robot cars in San Francisco. Oh, self-driving cars, man. I'm really torn. Like I like them. I really like it like in iRobot or like where it's done right and it's like you didn't have to go through this transition phase of like it doesn't work. Because like if a self-driving car doesn't work, it's bad. It's not like it just like pulls over on the side of the road and stops. Like it does something really bad. And in reading this article this morning, I was trying to think of like what is it about a driverless vehicle that freaks me out? And I think it's that so I ride a motorcycle, or at least I used to. I've spent years and years riding motorcycles. I don't have one in Chile. We're not lots of reasons why. Anyway, going through motorcycle safety training courses, we learn how to analyze the behavior of a vehicle to determine what it's going to do. For example, approaching an intersection, if there are vehicles that are stopped and you're passing, like a car in the left lane or something, and you're coming up on the right, you look at the tires of the car because if the car is going to make a sudden turn in front of you, the tires will move before the vehicle does. That would still apply to a driverless vehicle, but a lot of the anticipation is based on human behavior. Are driverless vehicles trained to behave like humans? No, they're trained to behave like machines. And that kind of freaks me out. Regardless, the article is that they have some fully driverless, like not even people in the car with them, vehicles on the streets of SF, so watch out. And then they linked to this. They apparently did a big thing a bunch of months ago before all of us started staying at home, where they showcased this vehicle that has no, you can't really see it in this. It has no driver functionality in it whatsoever. There's not like a driver's seat and a steering wheel. It's just a box with wheels and an engine and a brain. Freaky, man. Absolutely freaky. But it's coming. What did I say yesterday? Like the world's going to move on whether we choose to or not. Let's just hope they get it right. A long, long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away, I had some stuff on from this group called K14S. They rebranded to Carvel, which makes me think of Captain Marvel. Captain Marvel, right? That was a weird, good movie, but weird storyline. Anyway, they have a thing called CAP. They have a bunch of stuff. Their stuff is really cool. Their stuff is the kind of really cool where you're like, non-Euclidean geometry. I don't really know how to process this. There was a short story written back when they used to write short stories. It won a bunch of science fiction awards, and it was called Mimsy Where the Borogoves. They made a terrible movie out of it called something else. But Mimsy Where the Borogoves took Jabberwocky, the poem by Lewis Carroll, and it's Jabberwocky's just a really weird poem. And these kids in the story found toys that came from an alien universe that followed a different path of geometry than Euclidean geometry, which is what we follow here on Earth, thanks to Euclid. And as the kids figured out these toys, they actually shifted into a parallel universe where those toys made sense. And once they no longer operated along the bounds of Euclidean geometry, they disappeared. The kids actually disappeared from this universe. Really cool story. That's how I see everything that Carvel makes. I look at it and I'm like, these people are operating on a different level entirely. Well, they're part of VMware. Who isn't? And one of their main things is this application deployment thing, well, Kubernetes manifest deployment thing that I don't really totally understand yet, but they just had a new release for it a couple of days ago called CAP. As I'm in the process of migrating stuff out to a GitOpsy model, I'm looking for ways to deploy that. And I was using Kustomize. I like Kustomize, but I'm pulling these things out and I'm like, okay, I've got like 6 manifests that I want to deploy. It just seems stupid to create a customize.yaml that has like a list of 6 things. Well, CAP actually takes that and makes it more intelligent, where you can have dependencies, where it'll wait until services or resources are deployed and stable before it moves on to the next thing. And it works great with GitOps. The bots surfaced this. Oh, here, I highlighted this. Works without admin privileges, does not use custom CRDs, making it possible to use CAP as a regular user in a single namespace. So if you want to use it for your deployments, well, knock yourself out. Oh yeah, so their page over here, they redid all their stuff, which is also super cool. So it's GitOps friendly, and well, I'm going to take a look at this during my time off as I continue to move things out. And if I disappear from this universe, just start using cap and you'll find me. Okay, this is a thought piece. I'm just going to go through this really quickly. I don't know if I can do anything quickly today, but I'm going to go through this really quickly. Somebody interviewed millennials. Oh, that's interesting. Ah, okay. Somebody interviewed millennials about open infrastructure. Open infrastructure being defined as a combination of open source products to build open cloud infrastructure. And the takeaway from this, which apparently, since my little highlighter script just crashed, is no longer highlighted. So the takeaway from this is that millennials value open source, particularly, I mean, I don't know how many people they talked to, so it might be a study group of one. But, you know, if you're writing a biased article, why not just interview the people that support your premise? Um, so 97% of millennials say that connecting their public cloud solutions to their data center will still be important in 5 years. There's something else in here about 88% of millennials say their organization's policy and procedures don't allow them to be as creative as they could be at work. That's pretty important because the younger generations are the ones that will work the hardest and that will shape, like they see the most of the future, whereas those of us who are in the later parts of our career tend to see the past. I know I'm super guilty of that. Like, no, I just learned how to do all of this stuff. Why are you changing it? 69% of millennial IT professionals believe their organization has apps or services that are not currently on open cloud infrastructure but should be. So 2,546 respondents. Okay, so it was actually a legit study group in 2017. Okay. Anyway, open source is here to stay. Open infrastructure, innovation, like open source drives innovation, and open technology promotes creativity. What's not to like? Especially if you're a millennial. Because I think this is the first article where I've actually seen anybody take anything that millennials say and be like, we should do what they say. Otherwise, the rest of it is like, bah, I'm not going to use Snapchat. Uh, uh, we've had parts 1 and 2 about how to use the Kubernetes API for observability on here before. This is part 3, which talks about how events are a first-class resource. I didn't realize that you could actually just run kubectl get events for a namespace, and it'll get you all the events for a namespace. How cool is that? So yeah, there you go. Today I learned. So article on how to talk to the events API and how to do filtering and things like that. If you're looking for where to get more information. Um, including JQ. Yeah, Chris Short recommended during the presentation that once you learn all the kubectl commands you want to use, you should learn JQ right after that. And I agree. I agree with, well, he agrees, but I also agree. I use JQ for a lot of stuff, and I know like an infinitesimally small amount of JQ, and it's still super useful. Uh, so there you go. The Events API in Kubernetes. Do we have time for one more? Maybe. I'm going to do it anyway. Live dangerously. No. If you're using Azure, well, AKS replaced Docker with Containerd. That in itself is not big news. Other than, geez, that was fast. They've been planning this for a while. And is my highlighter broken? My highlighter's not broken. They pointed out in this article something that I didn't realize because I don't do anything with Windows, that the Containerd interface has always been the interface for Windows containers, even though Docker was the only supported container runtime for Windows before Kubernetes 1.18. They've always had the Docker binary split up between the Docker front end and the Containerd backend in Docker for Windows. Now, Docker for everything else didn't do this, even though it's still Containerd, whatever. It sounds like the Windows crew like saw the writing on the wall and like split it. So all they had to do was just like shut off half of it. And they're like, ta-da! Containerd. This was the world from the beginning. Mwaha. It continues to talk about other recent improvements in AKS, that they realize that there are 2 classes of people depending on the type of cluster that they're running, some of whom want stable upgrades of Kubernetes that take like an hour or more and don't interrupt workloads, but that some people are just like, rip the Band-Aid off, just rip it off, upgrade the thing, because they have, like it's easier for them to go to their users and say, we're going to be down for 5 minutes, than it is to go and say, we're going to be down for 2 hours, or intermittently down for 2 hours. So they've built that in. They talk about using max surge for doing Kubernetes upgrades, and then they have some graphs, because what's not to love about a graph? So if you're using Azure, good for you. Average rating of 4 coffees. Trufflebot says, good show. Let's get on to the tool of the day. I don't know what tool it is, but yeah. Today's tool of the day is Vector. Cue Vector gifts from Wifebots. Vector had a blog article that apparently I've had in the backlog for a while, because this is from November 25th, that they now have first-class Kubernetes integration for Vector. That's cool. What the heck is Vector? Vector is a middleware tier that takes all sorts of inputs, does stuff to it, and spits it out to outputs. And you can use this for any type of observability data. Metrics, tracing, logs, whatever you want. And now they have first-class support for Kubernetes. I don't know what they had before, but apparently they didn't have first-class support for Kubernetes, and now they do. Vector is deployed over 1 million times a month by Fortune 500 companies. I don't know why. I don't know what that means, but apparently it's good. They have some metric stuff in here where they talk about various things related to various stuff, but let's go back to the other article, because one of the biggest concerns that I have running small clusters that I pay for myself is I don't like that, like, I launch a Kubernetes cluster and then I use 60% of its capacity to run Prometheus and Grafana and all that other stuff. Like, what about my workloads? What caught my eye here is this. So they talk about an enterprise client that they had that was running 4 separate operations on all of their nodes just to get their observability data out. This resulted in this horribleness here, where you could see that like up to 50% of their node's capacity, depending on whether it was CPU memory or cost, was being used for just agents collecting data. They switched out to Vector, reduced observability resource usage by 90%, and they got it down to that. I've said it like 100 times already today. What's not to like? I'm going to go play with this. I don't know if it'll work for what I want it to do, but it appears to be totally open source. They got a GitHub repo, and I didn't see anything that talks about pricing. So, yeah, hopefully we can get this up and running and actually get useful stuff out of my cluster without having to pay DigitalOcean a bunch of money for a bunch more nodes. I know y'all can't vote on that. Sorry. Hey, 2 people gave it 5. Nice. Even though you can't officially vote, you're welcome to add your own emojis to it. So there you go. That's Vector. And now, what do we do now? What do we do now? We press the button. If you were in the show yesterday, I pressed the wrong button. If you went back, you can see that I actually edited that out so that it didn't look totally weird. That's it for today. Now I just have to scroll the teleprompter. Yes, thank you so much for watching the 32-minute show of Coffee and Cloud Native. Links to everything I talked about in the show go up in the free community side after the show ends. Come join us. You'll get early access to the links, video replay, other exclusive content. Remember that there's a link that will be posted there that compares Linkerd to Istio with actual benchmarking. So if you're curious just how much faster Linkerd might be, check that out. If you have something you would like me to consider for the show, post it in the community site, mention me in the post, or ping me on Discord or Twitter. Have a great day, everyone. Keep learning. I will see you in the next show. Whoa. Stay caffeinated.